In this video, I'm going to go through an example of a VBA program. When I do this, the first thing I want to do is name these sheets rather than sheet 1, sheet 2, and sheet 3. So come down here, rename, and let's call this output. I mean, that's probably not that great of a name. I just want to come up with some type of name. And when I'm naming, I need to name the cells as well. So this present value cell, I'm going to name that current value for, instead of current value, just CURVAL. And this one I'm going to call it interest. Actually, I got to click that name box, interest rate. And this I'm going to call, instead of years, I'm going to call it YRS. The one thing you have to be careful of is you can't have a cell name the same as a formula name. For example, PV is present value, so I couldn't name this PV for present value. Okay, so if we have trouble with this, and there I didn't get that right, I was going to name that curve val, I have to hit enter to make that work. And here I didn't hit enter when I finished to get that to work. And this one I'll call it FUTVAL for future val, and again I got to click in that box and I have to hit enter to do this. And if you have trouble with any of those, you can go to data, and data, you go to formulas, and formulas you go to name manager, and name manager you can click on new, and new you can type in your name right here, and you can select what cell you're referring to. You could do click on one of these, you could do edit. You could change which cell you're referring to, you could change the name, and of course you could do delete. So now that I have all of those, I go to the developer tab. If I don't have a developer tab showing, what I need to do is go here, go to Excel options, and then I can go to customize. And once I go there, hang on just a second. Okay, sorry about that. It's not customize, it's when you go popular and you have this little show developer tab in the ribbon, click there, and in 2010 that's going to be separate. 2010 there's something that says customize the ribbon, or some verbiage like that. I forget exactly what it is, but there we have the developer tab up, and now I can begin writing code. I go to Visual Basic, and I got to get that so it fits the screen. And hang on, let me get that to work. Okay, now I have it to fit the screen, and to go back and forth between this, which is the integrated developers environment or development environment, I click on Excel, I can click on Visual Basic, go back and forth, or I can do Alt F11. Alt F11 is quicker unless you're working on a laptop. Now I go to insert a module. And here's my module. I'm going to make that big so I can see everything. And then I go to insert procedure. And insert the procedure, I'm going to do a subroutine, not function, not property, but sub. I need to give it a name. Let's just call it test 1. Or we could call it something different. We could call it future value. Click OK. And now we're set to put whatever information in we want to. So I need to read in some variables. I want to go over here, and I want to be able to say my present value is 1,000. I want to say my interest rate is 10%. I want to say I have 3 years, and then right here I want to have the output, and note these are in red. I want to have the output to be the answer. I know the answer. I can do equal FV, so this I can check. FV, the rate, comma, the number of periods, comma, there's no payment, comma, the present value. And note the references are not cell references. It's not like C2, C3, and C4. It's the name of the cell. And I can close that, and that comes out as negative, which it should. Change that to 1331, so I know that's the right answer. I can put this in at 4 and see how that changes. So I already know the future value formula is embedded in Excel, so I don't really need to write this program. I'm just doing this as a check. I want to see if I can program something that already exists to make sure I'm doing it right. So first I need to read in the different variables, and let's say current value, and I want to capitalize that just so I can see it better. It doesn't make a difference. Is equal to, I'm going to type here and not have any capitals, worksheets, open parenthesis, quote, output, quote, close parenthesis, and it's telling Excel, go to the worksheet named output. I'm going to click over there and it's going to give me an error, but see, this is named output. And I'm going to look in the cell called CUR val, and then so I say range, open parentheses, quote, cur val, and note worksheets is not capitalized and range is not capitalized. I go down and they're both capitalized. That's telling me that we know that that's correct. Excel is recognizing that as a command. It knows what you mean by worksheets and what you mean by range. If I had misspelled range, I go down, that doesn't capitalize, and that lets you know you didn't spell something correctly. So I would never do the never capitalize things, just let Excel do it. And this, I don't have to have the same name here, this CUR val. I can name this, instead of CUR val, I can name it current val. So this name doesn't have to match that name. It's usually easier to do that, but it doesn't have to. Okay, I have to pause for something real quick. Okay, sorry about the interruption. The next thing I want to do is read in the year. So YRS is equal to, and it knows to look on the worksheet named output. So now I don't have to tell it to look on that worksheet again. I can just say range, and I named that YRS. And then my next one is going to be rate, but I can't call it interest rate because, I can't call it rate because that is a name, and it's a function in Excel, so I don't want to do that. I have to give it something else. So int rate is equal to range, quotes, int rate. And haven't been writing down what I call these things, so I have to go back here. Yeah, I call that years. Just check and make sure I have the names right, because if I misspell one of those names, Excel doesn't like it, and we're done. Alright, so now I'm going to write a loop that says for I equals 1 to YRS, and I don't have to use I could use any variable, but traditionally programmers have used I for index, so I'm going to go with what they have. And notice when I hit enter there, the 4 and the 2 become blue. That tells you that Excel recognizes that as a command. Because I'm doing a loop here, I like to tab in, and everything that's indented is part of that loop. So now I'm going to do the actual calculation. I'm going to say that current value is equal to current value times 1 plus interest rate. And then I'm going to come down here and say next I. And here's what's happening. Current value, it goes in, it reads current value, which is $1,000, right? Because it goes to CUR val and says that's $1,000. And it says years is equal to 3, so this is going to be for I equals 1 to 3. So I come through here the first time, and remember, this is not an equal sign like in math. There's no transitive property. I'm saying current value shall be equal to current value times 1 plus the interest rate. So current value, which is 1,000, current value shall be equal to 1,000 times 1 plus the interest rate, which is 10%. So that's 1,100. And then we say next I. Well, that means I is equal to 2. So do this again. 1,100 is equal to excuse me, I'm saying that wrong. Current value is equal to 1,100 times 1 plus I, which is 1,210. Next I is equal to 3. So current value is equal to 1,210 times 1 plus I, which makes it 1,331. Next I, which is 4, and we're just going from 1 to 3, so we stop. And we go out of the loop. And now I'm out of the loop. The next thing I want to do is say the value range, quote, FUT val is equal to current val. I could not write that the other way. This is saying the cell over here if you t-val, that cell shall be equal to whatever current value is equal to, which is 1331. So let's run the program. Go over here, and there you see it's 1331. Let's change this to 1200. Then the answer should be 1597. So come back here to macros, and I can run that. It runs to 1597. So I now have that working correctly. Okay, let's look at a couple things that could go wrong if you don't have this correct. So if I name this wrong, I just have that screwed up. I didn't realize that typo, and I run this. Nothing happens because it doesn't recognize. It takes this to be a 0. So when I go over here, that's 1200. And the reason is this was not given any value because I changed that from INT rate to just a misspelling of it. Okay, so let's go through another possible mistake that you could have. Think of one here. If I did something like this, I don't have a next. It's going to just tell you something's wrong, and when it has this yellow line up here, it's telling you there's something wrong in the program, and Excel's not really sure where. So I put the next I back, and then I do the reset button, and then I run it, and everything runs fine. Let's say I have this as current value. That doesn't exist. There's no cell like that exists. So when I run this, it says debug, and then it highlights what's wrong. So you'll see that yellow highlight, and Excel's pretty good about telling you, I don't understand what you mean by this. So you have to go back and check, and then you reset and you run it, and that's it. So really, when you're going through this, all I want you to get for now is the following: how to read in numbers from the spreadsheet, how to output your results to the spreadsheet, and do a for next loop. This is called a for next loop, and how to do some type of calculations in there, and just kind of get the logic of what's going on. So if I've done future value, now try to do a present value.